Welcome to Story Spark, your ultimate destination for enchanting tales, fables, and life lessons. Dive into captivating stories for adults and others that teach important morals and inspire positive thinking. From classic animal fables to inspiring life lessons, our animated and narrated stories make learning fun and memorable. Subscribe for new moral stories every week and spark your imagination with every tale.
Silas, a gaunt wolf, prowled the high hills, his stomach constantly aching with the emptiness of a predator too cautious to risk a direct confrontation. He watched a peaceful flock of sheep grazing in a nearby valley, tended by a vigilant shepherd and his fierce barking dog. The sight of the plump, oblivious lambs was tormenting, driving him to desperation. He knew brute strength would fail. The dog was too quick, the shepherd too alert, and the fence too strong. Silas needed a plan that bypassed all vigilance, a way to move among his prey unseen and unheard by the watchful eyes of the protector. His eyes fixed on a recently skinned hide drying on a low wooden fence post outside the shepherd's small, isolated hut. An idea, cunning and deeply deceitful, began to curl in his sharp, predatory mind. He realized that if he couldn't attack them as a wolf, he could, perhaps, join them as a sheep, wearing their very identity as a disguise. The risk was enormous, certainly, but the reward, a promise of survival and a never-ending feast, was too tempting to ignore. He waited until the darkest part of midnight, when the moon was hidden by thick clouds and the shepherd was deep in heavy slumber, to execute the first phase of his daring, treacherous plan. He moved like a shadow across the dewy ground, his paws silent on the cool grass, heading straight for the forbidden woolly disguise with intense focus. Under the cover of deep midnight darkness, Silas crept to the low wooden fence and easily secured the thick sheepskin which had been hung out to cure. It was still noticeably damp and smelt strongly of lanolin and sweet hay, a scent which made his sensitive predator nose wrinkle instantly in profound distaste, but the copious wool provided excellent, necessary cover. He carefully slipped the heavy hide over his lean, massive frame, taking great pains to tuck his sharp, predatory snout deep into the neck opening of the garment. The resulting disguise was surprisingly convincing from a distance, yet moving in it felt intensely awkward and restrictive. He practiced a few hesitant, jerky steps, consciously trying to mimic the placid, slightly clumsy gait of a grazing sheep. His powerful wolf tail had to remain perfectly still and coiled beneath the loose, cumbersome wool, and his pointed, betraying ears had to be completely concealed by the floppy hide. He spent the remainder of the waning night rehearsing his strange new persona, forcing himself to move with great slowness and quietude, firmly resisting the primal, ingrained urge to spring and run freely. He listened intently to the soft, rhythmic bleating from the nearby enclosure, trying desperately to memorize the sounds so he wouldn't accidentally betray himself with a guttural wolfish growl at a crucial moment. As the first pale, golden light of dawn stretched gently across the entire valley, the shepherd, an aging man named Jed, emerged sleepily from his tiny hut, whistling a cheerful, familiar morning tune. He promptly unlatched and opened the gate to the fold, and the large flock of sheep, clearly eager for fresh, dewy pasture, streamed out in a thick, seemingly endless woolly river. Silas merged seamlessly into this moving, docile stream, keeping his disguised head down low and moving his 4 feet slowly, deliberately, and clumsily, occasionally bumping harmlessly into the genuine sheep around him just to look perfectly natural. The shepherd's fierce but trusting dog, Buster, sniffed the passing line of animals, his nose briefly brushing against the wolf's dense, woolly flank. But he registered nothing unusual at all, only the familiar, reassuring smell of the flock. Jed counted the entire flock as they leisurely passed by him, noting only the expected, usual number. Silas had brilliantly succeeded. He was now completely inside the protective perimeter, a dangerous, concealed wolf among the innocent lambs. The electric thrill of the profound deception was a heady, intoxicating rush, almost as satisfying as the promise of a meal itself. He walked alongside a particularly plump ewe, already mentally planning his lavish evening feast, but he maintained his meticulously docile posture, cleverly hiding the tremendous coiled tension of his powerful muscles. The long, risky day had officially begun, and the deadliest game of all was silently afoot. Silas spent the long, immensely tense morning awkwardly pretending to graze diligently in the fresh pasture. He found the sweet meadow grass utterly unappetizing, severely lacking the satisfying warmth and metallic tang of fresh, running blood. But he kept his disguised snout lowered continuously, occasionally nibbling half-heartedly at the clover just to meticulously maintain his essential cover. The genuine sheep of the flock, naturally docile and completely trusting, paid him absolutely no mind, occasionally pressing gently against him as they comfortably shifted their positions in the grazing pattern. One small, curious lamb, named Pip, bounded playfully over and nudged Silas's thick, woolly flank with his nose. "Hello there," Pip bleated softly. "You're very quiet today, friend. Are you feeling well, or is the sun too hot?" Silas froze completely, a low, instinctive, dangerous growl catching sharply in his throat, violently threatening to rip right through the woolly disguise and expose his deception. He quickly suppressed the deep, primal, predatory sound with intense effort, managing to let out only a muffled, choked, indistinct noise that the innocent Pip simply accepted as a shy, non-committal reply from a quiet companion. The frightening ease of the deception was truly astonishing, confirming his cunning plan. The entire flock accepted the disguise completely, seeing only what their trusting eyes told them, a fellow sheep. It powerfully reinforced the wolf's belief that appearances were everything, and he relaxed slightly, knowing his greatest constant challenge was now simply silence and patience until dusk. As the long afternoon shadows lengthened steadily across the valley floor, Jed, the aging shepherd, began whistling his familiar evening call again, gently guiding the entire flock back towards the enclosed fold for the impending night. The sheep moved slowly, predictably accustomed to this daily routine, and Silas, still perfectly disguised beneath the thick, itchy wool, moved cautiously with them, trying to blend in with the dense crowd. Jed was quietly planning a very special hearty dinner for himself and his loyal dog Buster, a rich, savory lamb stew to celebrate the successful grazing season and his diligence. As the animals obediently filed past him and the gate, his eyes fell sharply upon Silas's large, impressive form. The wolf's naturally muscular, large frame, though somewhat hidden by the loose sheepskin, made him appear conspicuously plump and exceptionally well-fed compared to the naturally leaner rest of the flock. "Look at that one, Buster!" Jed chuckled warmly to his dog, pointing a weathered finger directly at the disguised wolf. "He's easily the plumpest of the entire lot. He'll be absolutely perfect for our savory stew tonight." Buster, wagging his tail happily, let out a cheerful bark of full agreement. Jed reached out a strong hand and grabbed Silas firmly by the scruff of the neck, or rather, the thick, heavy scruff of the woolly disguise. A sheer terror unlike any hunger he had ever known instantly seized the surprised wolf. His cunning plan, which was meant to lead directly to a lavish feasting, Jed forcefully dragged the struggling, disguised animal towards the small, isolated butchering shed located at the edge of the fenced enclosure. Silas, now completely gripped by overwhelming, paralyzing primal fear, thrashed wildly and desperately against the shepherd's firm grasp. He knew he could not possibly run away without immediately shedding the sheepskin, which would expose his true identity, and he could not properly speak or cry out without revealing his deceitful nature. But the chilling, immediate thought of the deadly knife descending upon him was far too much for his ingrained predator instincts to bear. In a single moment of pure, blinding, catastrophic panic, his sophisticated plan completely evaporated from his mind, and he forgot his painstakingly crafted disguise entirely. Instead of a meek, helpless bleat or a struggling whimper that Jed expected, a deep, guttural, utterly ferocious snarl ripped from his powerful throat, immediately followed by a terrifying, truncated, and highly distinctive wolf howl. The sudden sound was raw, chilling, ferocious, and absolutely, completely unnatural to the quiet pastoral scene. Jed stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes instantly widening in both horror and total shock. Buster, who had been happily wagging his tail just moments before, instantly bristled, the hair rising stiffly on his back as he immediately recognized the terrifying enemy's sound. The wolf's authentic voice, not his woolly appearance, had catastrophically betrayed him, shattering the fragile, deadly illusion he had so meticulously crafted throughout the day. Jed quickly bound the defeated Silas with thick, durable rope, ensuring the dangerous predator could not escape and threaten the flock again. He calmly stroked his trembling, brave dog and surveyed the large, scattered flock, which was slowly beginning to regroup around the center of the field, still nervously bleeding in the aftermath of the terrifying encounter. "See this, my friends?" Jed spoke loudly, petting Busket ahead firmly and protectively. "The most dangerous and subtle threats don't always immediately look like genuine threats. That animal cunningly wore the familiar, gentle skin of a defenseless lamb. But the true heart and the sudden revealing voice were unmistakably those of a ferocious killer. If not for his sudden revealing panic at the sight of the knife, he might have been quietly living among us for weeks, silently and patiently planning his brutal feast." The sheep learned a harsh, unforgettable lesson about deception that day. Appearances are often the first, most misleading layer of any deception, and true, genuine character is ultimately revealed not by outward show or convincing costume, but by instinctive reaction, consistent behavior, and sudden revealing actions. The captured wolf was then dragged far away from the protective valley, a complete prisoner of his own deeply flawed and failed disguise. The wary flock slowly returned to their grazing, forever reminded that a smooth, convincing exterior can often hide the sharpest, most deadly danger. They now understood that it is absolutely crucial to look wisely beyond the obvious surface. And so, the story of the wolf in sheep's clothing teaches us to never judge by appearance alone. The things that look the most harmless might hide the greatest danger, and a soft exterior can conceal the hardest heart. Always listen to your instincts and look past the disguise. Thank you for joining us for this tale of cunning and clear sight.